Okay, let's begin.
Mm.
So today I want to show you how to create some kind of a graphic image for
Th
the
these images are making me hungry.
Oh, yes, that is true. So this we are going to start off with making or I want to show you how to make graphic images which tend to be a little easier and therefore much faster to illustrate. Very often when you're traveling, you are thinking about making something that is very elaborate, and if you have the time, that's great. But if you don't, then you come back home with a lot of unfinished artwork, which to finish becomes another task. And in the 15 years that I've been doing this, I've realized that if you don't finish 90% of your art when you are traveling, then you have a hope in hell that you're going to finish it after you come back. You may do your first journal, but after that, it's just difficult. I'm still trying to finish my Jaipur journal, it's just not finishing. So, there are different ways in which you can do it. Some places you pay a lot of time and attention and make very detailed illustrations, make the pages very elaborate. And the other pages, you can do things much faster, where you just draw the shapes, a little bit of texture, and that's the end of that. So sometimes those shapes can be a little inaccurate, but the fact that it is a graphic generally takes care of how the illustration is received on the page. So you don't have to worry about accuracy too much. Let's see the pictures that I've sent. There's a whole bunch that I've dumped today. There's a little bit of tiles, a little bit of food, and we are going to do a little bit of lettering also today. So this is the national dish of Morocco. Definitely we have to make this. Cute little tagine. Then I did a lot of research. I found a wonderful article. This is supposed to be some breakfast food. I will find the names for all of these, which we can write. This is like a stuffed pastry cake, and of course another tagine. Then, what I initially had wanted to do was also some carpets. And I found that this is a lovely sample of carpets that we can make as part of the culture. They also have a very rich tile tradition. So we have this bunch of items, a huge, this almost looks like Rajasthani prints. See at the bottom. So very often, even this embroidery. So very often when I'm selecting pictures, I have to go to the source of the image to make sure that I'm not selecting something wrong. So we are going to omit all of these and just focus on the tiles in the background and probably make a small backdrop or something with that. Now, these are the different ideas that you have to fill up your pages. If you are going to some huge palace which has got lots of tiles, you get so overwhelmed, and yes, you want to make that whole thing. But if you commit to making the entire interiors, which I fully encourage you to do, you have to take out time later on. So you need to know how to take pictures for that project separately and budget a time, like every Saturday you're going to sit for a couple of hours and make something or the other, work on a plan, and you could really make a wonderful accordion book of these tiles and the rooms that you find the tiles in. It would be very nice. But till then, what you can do is just take a little sample of a repeat and then illustrate that, make patterns out of that, and make your page look interesting. So I committed to one such project in the Jaipur journal, and it took me 2 days or 3 days to paint this. It just drove me nuts. It's a beautiful door, and I said I still haven't finished it. There are some details that I have put here which I haven't had the time to put here. So I don't know when that is going to happen. But if I had just taken a little motif and done that, that would have been much quicker. Anyway, so today we will do a graphic page mostly in black and white. So this won't even require too much color. And whatever color we put in, we are going to match it across the page so that, say, we have only blues, just put the blues in every item. Then the page starts becoming more cohesive in design terms. That's another choice that you can make for composition. That way, there is a little bit of thought put to your layout as well. Let's see how we can do this. So when you have a little bit of a background in layout design, the first thing you have to consider is all the elements that you want to put in the page. Now, if you think about traveling, it's usually linear. You may have an overall itinerary, but you may not be seeing everything in one go, like we do our photographs. So you should think ahead and say, okay, this is the page I'm going to, or double spread, where I'm going to make illustrations of the food in this particular style. So every meal that you go to, you come back to this page and put a little bit of one element or another. So you can leave room for about 4 or 6 items, and you will write food and then write a little bit about those items as well. So assuming that that is how we have planned it, this time we won't fold the page. We will consider this like one big layout in which we have to fit a whole lot of stuff. So we can put our carpet picture on the left here. We can make our food in 4 different corners. I'll still look for one more tagine, or sorry, one less tagine. And then we are going to write titles like either market in Morocco or food in Morocco or something like that. And I want to show you how to work with lettering as well on this page. So since the carpets are coming here, we can make a nice border with some of the titles on actually the whole page, because we are now considering the whole page. So let's make that border first, leaving a few, like a finger wide space. Make a line running from one end to the other. I know straight lines can be very harrowing. So one trick is to hold your pencil a little further away, make horizontal lines looking with your pencil held vertical, and keep looking at this edge instead of looking at the line, and try to keep the distance from the edge uniform. This is the place where later on, if you want to, you can use a scale. But I want you to try this first. If you get a halfway decent line, then don't bother with the scale. But if your line is not looking too nice, if it's gone too off from one side or the other, then if you have a straight edge of anything, you don't need a calibrated scale. Just the edge of a book or a file, even that will be fine for today's, for the border today. Hi, Malika.
Right, okay.
Okay, we're just starting off with making a border for, in which we're going to make a tile pattern.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, so if you can make it straight without using a scale, then go ahead and do that. Or else, if you have a straight edge of anything that's long enough, you can use that.
Okay.
Just to keep your illustration happy and not stress you out too much. There is a certain charm in the crooked lines of handmade illustration, but I can get that sometimes it is so harrowing that you'd rather just, instead of being paralyzed with fear, just go ahead and use a scale, move it forward. Now, to keep things simple, we can use a tile pattern which is just V shapes to start with, and then in that V shape, you can give it almost like a minaret design. And we can also make maybe a small triangle in that. So we are taking bits and pieces from the tile pattern that we see and making something simplified. Already I'm sure you can tell how long it's going to take to paint this thing. The original design of the of the tile is actually quite cute, where this is the main body, but you can make like a star shape on either side. So just three prongs. So this is the more advanced version. And if you want to commit to this, that's great. But if you don't want to, then just making this arch shape is good enough also. So this can be the pattern at the top and the bottom. And along the side, we can change the pattern and make it a square design. So divide this into tiny, tiny squares. And I'll give you a pattern in that as well. So the yellow and black pattern that we see below is nothing but uh, another diamond shape over here, which is the simplified version. And in this, they have broken this into another shape. So you have this is a very committed pattern. So you do this, like a 90-degree square. Even this is fine. And forget that cross in the middle. So you have little V shapes going inside. And all these will be in yellow and the outside will be in black. So this is also a shape. So this exercise is extremely meditative, making these patterns and then painting this. And I would thoroughly encourage you to do it. And this would work very well for those of you who don't are not really working full-time jobs or have babies, which means only Zai. But Zai will be traveling, so that's out also.
I have two babies in the form of my parents
Oh
this
my
time.
God. Okay, so that's a full-time job as well. Okay, so keeping it simple, don't need to make it so elaborate. When we make the diamond shape, just paint the diamond part yellow and the triangles outside that in black so that at least you can finish this beautiful border. All right, now let's move on to making those carpets. So the carpets as we see them are hung on a window. We will make that window just as a rectangle. In fact, I am very tempted to make it with a pen as well, but okay, never mind. Let's first make that window. In that, there's a very nice jolly design also, so we'll make that. And then place these hooks at the bottom edge. I made an inside frame and I have just made a like a small circle on the center and the two sides, and then two circles in the middle of the two sides from where I am drawing the carpets. So whenever you're drawing fabric hanging down, you first we have this thread that comes down. In some places it's long, some places it's short, and draw the edge first. So you have one edge of the carpet going down. Then you have a slight curve to that where the fabric can curve inward and outward, then turn again and come down like this. So anytime you have a hanging fabric, you will see that the edge gives you an idea of its roll. And you have to make sure that any lines that you draw, you see a connect. So if I draw a line like this going over here, that means that the other part of the fabric is bending somewhere there, as you can see. And then you draw the edge coming right back where it's supposed to be. Now, you have to be a little careful that your lines are not too bumpy and they're not too pointy either, because fabric has got some bulk. Also draw these little tufts of the edge of the carpet on that side. And then we will make the design. So the design inside will also follow that pattern. It will follow the same line. So all the verticals will somehow bend in a certain direction. Here, when you draw the line, it will bend ever so slightly towards the right. You can see that. So if you don't draw these little bends, it's very tiny, this starts looking like a flat piece. So in your spare time, if you do get time, definitely practice making fabric. So next month, the weekly, no, not weekly, the daily art activity is going to be various objects. So I will be giving things like um, pieces of fabric, Okay, then this is the carpet that is overlapping everything else. Then the next one is on the right. So you have the left edge coming down, horizontal almost. And then you have a line that is snaking downward in that edge. Now here's another thing you can do. You can draw these fence-like lines for the what are these ends called? The ends of the carpet. Tassels. And this is where the trick comes. Now make sure that your line is either rounded or soft. Now when again over here we have a checkered pattern, so the edge white line will follow the edge of the carpet. Then you will have another line that is round slightly, and as it comes on the roll, you round it in the other direction. Then distances. Make sure that the distance of the borders, the thickness of the squares is
Aditi,
corroborating. Yeah.
I think due to light, right? Sunlight,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
be able to see those lines.
Yeah, I was just about to turn the curtain. Hopefully, you can still see through this. There's always a pattern on this side, but tell me if it is too difficult, then I'll just start using a pen or I will move to another side.
We can actually, yes, I think
Okay,
we
better.
should zoom in a bit. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I'll just ink the rest. I won't make everything in pencil, but I want to show you when, suppose you've done this in pencil, when you're inking it, there are a few lines that you can make differently and some you can avoid making altogether because pencil line is only a guideline. So these are the tassels and I'm changing a few lines here. And again, when I come to this side, instead of drawing a horizontal line for the edge of the carpet, I will draw these tassels. And the edge of the design will only be that red edge. Now, even in this, there is a design, right? So, for the design, we have to, if there are places where the lines are crossing, you have to be certain that you want to cross that line with the black line also. Otherwise, you just leave it blank. Like, for example, this edge is fairly firm. Inside that, there's a rick-rack design. So, I will make the vertical lines first because that rick-rack inside that is firm. And then the bottom will be another one. But I have to take care that I'm not overlapping these two lines. No overlaps here, no crossing. See this part. If you do cross, then it indicates something in the design itself, which it would be inaccurate. Now, when there are too many tassels, you can just indicate those tassels with a few lines like that, and then just bundle up all of them together and draw the end or the silhouette. Now, another thing also at the bottom is please don't draw like a zigzag line. Draw lines which are like the tassels you see. If we draw all like these snake like lines, I'll show you. Just because you want it to look like tassels, if you draw this is not how the tassels are. They just tend to look very untidy lines. But if you draw some lines like that, consciously thinking about how tassels do tend to fold like that, they look good. This will look fine. Then just drawing like this at the very least might be fine. So the first line that I drew, I've often found that that's something that you in your mind are thinking that that's how that line is going to look. On the flip side of these carpets, there is no design, so don't bother making that. The next one will be here in the middle. And I'm drawing this directly without a pencil line because I kind of am visualizing this on the paper before I draw. At some point, you are going to have to do this, and it's not too tough. Now, there are a lot of horizontal lines on the carpet in the middle, but don't draw them in pen. We will keep them for just the paint. The next one is just a triangle. I've made it too wide. I've gone into the space of the third carpet, but it's okay now. Here too the design is quite complex. The third carpet is two folds here. This line I have to just lift my pen up, make a line on top of the carpet which is overlapping, and then come down. You'll also notice that I have kept a little bit of a gap between the edges of the carpets that I'm drawing and their tassels, because if you connect it, it tends to again look a little weird. Okay, now let's draw the frame. So this part we are going to make it look like a very graphic image. A graphic means that you're not really focusing on staying true to real. Your lines are much darker and more severe than in realistic illustrations. So here's my frame, and there is also a frame of the doorway in which the or the bottom part of the window, but I have obscured that because of my carpet, so I'm not making that bit. We'll make these corners on the frame so that looks like a wooden frame. Inside that we will also make a little thickness. And given time, we can make this the pattern inside that in reverse. But today we are not going to bother with that. We'll just make it in black itself. So if you want to do this in pencil, go ahead. I'm going to do this in pen, so it just becomes a little easier. Let's draw a horizontal line for the top of the grill. Then we have to draw two lines here. So one line will be narrow, and in the space that's left, the next line will come slightly higher than half of that remainder space. So we have a little more space at the bottom than the middle part. Then we will divide this whole thing in half. So you'll have one line coming right here in the center, but only from the top of the grill part to the bottom of the grill part, not of the window. And then we have to imagine 2.5 squares on either side. So I am imagining one square here, because the design is in a repeat of 5 scrolls. So if your last part is not a square, it's fine. This is our basic grid. And then we are going to draw some places which are like joints. So in the top row, we will make a joint here in the center, right in the middle. And in the 4 panels in the center, we are going to make a scroll which goes like an S shape from the left, like a C over here, runs right across and makes an inverted C on the other side. Okay, so this is our basic shape, and then it scrolls inside. But how much it scrolls, you have to decide on how much space you have, so that you make this design look even. It does not have to match the number of scrolls that we go inside with, as long as it looks even here. Now the other side, we are making a mirror opposite. So we have a C that is twirling from its lower end. On the first panel, we had a C that trailed off to the right from its lower end. Here we have a C that is twirling inward, and then it trails off from the top to make a scroll on the other side. So in these cases, it's always good to first make that C, because either you have to make a C which will trail from the bottom or trail from the top. But making the C is pretty safe. The third C will trail from the bottom. Make this shape first. And the next one, if you want, make the C shape first. Trail it from the top. So you've got the symmetry in the design, and then you can start making the scrolls, because then you don't get confused about the direction of the scroll. And on the side panels, we have a diagonal C shape which scrolls in this manner. Now, all the places on the rectangular frame where the scroll touches, we are going to make a dark mark, because this almost is like where the piece is welded on so that it doesn't fall off, and it adds to the filigree of the design. Okay, now beyond this, I will just do these two, which you can then repeat. On the left hand side, we have an upturned U. It's exactly the same logic. Make these two shapes on either side, and you will have a line that connects the two with scroll on the top and the scroll at the bottom. Then we have a U shape at the bottom, which comes down a little distance away from the grill, creating a scroll at the lower end where it connects to its partner on the other frame. And in these, we divide the bottom part into two. So a very clever bottom, very clever middle, just the same thing repeated over and over again consistently. Now in this square, the design is slightly different, where we have these C-shaped scrolls along the corners. And wherever they connect, there will be that little joint. Okay, so this is good enough. This is something that we can continue. So even if your design is not looking too uniform, I don't think you should worry about that too much. And if you are scared about making these shapes uniform, you can't make them, just straight away use your pencil to mark a diamond shape here, and then mark that C like that. It's always easier to first make the C shape and then make that scroll. And ideally, I would suggest do it like this. Make all the same shapes in one go, because your hand gets warmed up and you can place things better also, instead of making each grate separately. It's a very, um, I feel sometimes industrial revolution kind of design making, where you do one little bit of the process, but the end result is amazing. Everything just comes together so well. So, something like that. Make those C shapes. And then when you make the S shape in the end, just look at the turn, which side it goes from. Now, this is something that we do as a separate project through the year. Just a sample, like somewhere we might have done windows, somewhere we might have done artifacts which involve intricate repeating patterns. So, for travel illustration, it's almost like a test of everything that we have done in class before, applying it and seeing whether it is working. So, in the past, when there have been people who have inquired for class saying, I just want to do one thing or another, like I just want to do portrait, or I just want to do travel, and I don't want to do anything else. What are you going to do in artifacts? What are you going to do in lettering? I'm not really interested. I have to convince them that trying to do something like this without the background of the rest of the curriculum, even though it's not a formal curriculum, can just sometimes be a little frustrating. Okay, window done. Do you need a minute? Okay, let me know when you're done, then we'll move on. In the meantime, let me look for one more food item. something. Shall we move on to the food part? Okay, so I have found some soup. I'll go over this again. There's something called a harira. Then we'll draw this tagine because it's got a lovely pattern on top. We can draw one of these and maybe draw a plate. This plate already has a very beautiful pattern in itself. So we have 4 items, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And maybe if we have time and space, we will make tea. So now that we're going to draw 4 items, we have the choice of where to put our text. Either we can put it on top or we can put it right in the middle. Let's try putting it in the middle. That means that we have space in these areas for our food. Leaving a little space in the center. I've drawn these circles very light because they're just to mark space. And now if we want to start with this first pancake thing, it's literally just a circle within a circle with a X, with like a, what's this called? Cross, cinnamon cross pattern. So we're not going to draw this circle absolutely straight. Let's make a proper circle for the plate. Again, because it's hand drawn, the plate may or may not be a perfect circle. See, this has become slightly oval. But inside that, we want to make this flaky stuffed pancakes. So make another oval or circle shape inside this. And this part now you can make with a broken line, or a line that is very wobbly and some flakes are coming outward. There has to be some kind of textural difference between the plate and the food. So anytime you're going to make something like pancakes or even cake or rotis or flaky pastries, you have to say that with just the line. And because this is a graphic, we are going to draw wobbly lines across like that. Just a pair of lines. So first we will draw a whole set of lines running in one direction, parallel to each other. So each pair of lines is parallel to the other pair of lines in one direction with equal space in between. And then just keep your pencil and see what angle we need. We can't make them perpendicular, so we have to make the lines at a little bit of an angle. So once you have found that angle, make one line, and again over here, avoid crossing over. Don't make crosses. Those crosses can look rather disturbing in illustrations. Don't ask me why. I have no idea, but they just create too much ink in one spot. It is not really needed. It just lands up attracting too much attention. Because this is a top shot, we don't see any thickness or anything. Leave it like that. Don't worry about it. So this is how you create a graphic image, because you don't want to have too much time spent. The next one, let's make that flatbread, which is again a rectangle. So in this case, if you want, maybe let's just make this without a plate. So make 2 pieces maybe a diamond shape like that, and then a tilted rectangle. Some of the accessories around this are very nice. So you can have a bowl of honey, and you don't know this is honey unless you put that little honey spoon in it, and just leave it at that. So now make a rounded edged line that goes across three parts like that. So every part you go to, you make it rounded. And then when you're coming towards the first side, don't go and touch that corner. Go a little inside like that and turn it in. So this will make it look like a folded pastry dough. That's exactly how you see it in the photograph. The one underneath it has got some more folds on its side. So right now we are not going to make any of those dots and all on top of it. Literally 5 minute illustrations. Then let's make the harira. Or should we make the tagine first, because it should take more space. So for the tagine, let's use a pencil. Make a triangle shape tilted sideways, and the base is like a very thin oval. You can make the oval or you can just make a shape like that, slightly rounded at the bottom, and from that you will have the oval of the tagine. This whole thing will shift a little to the left. A rim on the base and a bowl shape on the base. And as far as the food is concerned, you can just make these blob-like shapes. A little bit of coriander or green on top. There's no need to commit to making this look like meat or vegetables or whatever. And you have this on top. So now these shapes are interesting. You need to make sure that your triangles are well aligned, even if it is a tilt. So turn it on its side, make sure that this is looking good. And whenever you have multiple shapes coming together, my recommendation is address one shape at a time. So make the oval on top of the lid first, then make the two triangular sides, and then make this slightly tilted line. Make these two lines parallel first, the top and the bottom of the rim. Then extend them to the sides a little bit. And if you want, you can just make a silhouette of the ends also. You don't have to make a big detail. The detail is anyway just going to be these two lines like this. Now for the bottom part, we have to be a little careful. So I'm drawing the foreground line, which is not completed on the sides. Around that, I'm drawing another line of the rim, which is wider on the sides and comes closer to the earlier line in the center. And this line goes around the edge. Now, whether or not you want to complete that line will be determined by how much of the food you want to draw. So here again, I will draw the food like this, maybe something else coming here. And little bits of food on the side as well. And then complete this line. Now we can give a thickness to the rim and a base. So when you're making this base, just make sure that your curve is thought out, that you're not too close from one side of the rim than the other. And we will not bother making that plate below that. This is fine. And we can complete this bottom circle so that our tagine looks well structured. Now the last part should be fairly easy. That's just a bowl. So make an oval shape and then draw two vertical lines going down from the side. Draw a horizontal line for the base of the bowl and then curve from the sides. Now you can decide on how much you want to curve by changing the height of that base. And if possible, don't make this curve in one shot, because invariably from the left it will be one thing and from the right it will be another thing. Here again, the rim is drawn like that first, thickness of the rim. Then I'm drawing this part like so because I want that little coriander leaf to stick out. The lemon wedge can't stick out now, so I'll just keep it like this in the soup. And then just draw a very lumpy soup. I think it's got chickpeas and things like that. And with all bowls, this edge is usually not a very sharp edge. It tends to be a little rounder than we think in our heads. Your bowl shapes and your circular shapes will all be a little weirder, so don't be too hard on yourself. It'll still look like a bowl only. Now, once your drawing is done, a few things we can do to enhance this. We can decide on, like I said, a color or a pattern that is going to repeat everywhere. So if there is a blue part in your bowl, just draw the blue and paint the blue. If there's a blue part here, draw everything, the design, but paint only the blue part. And likewise, if you want to, you can make the design in the carpet also, or paint and just paint the blue parts, or you can paint all the other colors, but make sure that there is a harmony in those color tones. So to make this really stand out, first let's put our text in. We can say, let's say streets of Morocco or something like that, or Moroccan food. Yeah, streets of, no, this is not street food. Okay, let's just put Morocco anyway. So let's make two parallel lines. And we're going to write Morocco in this. Just make sure that your lines are the same distance away from the edge. We are going to write the names of our dishes. So those names will be written along the edge of the dish, like over here, but a distance away, not touching the plate at all. Name of this one can be written sideways like this. The name of this dish can be written sideways, horizontally here and here. So remember that text should not be an afterthought. You should, in somewhere in the back of your mind, you should know whether or not you are going to furnish some text here. Now the word Morocco has got 7 letters. We can fit it in this space here. I want to leave even space from the left and from the right. On the right we have the border, and on the left we have this carpet. So you don't need to write the text over here, which is very off center. And there's no harm in making a letter behind a particular artwork also. So if you want to write Morocco, we need Morocco, Morocco, right? Let's just write this down. I never know whether it's double R or double C. Yeah. So that means the letter O is in the center, and we need to make space for 3 letters on either side of the center. This is how I do it. I will break this in shape into half, and then I will make I could make it like this as well. Make a rectangular space for the O in the center and see how much space I have used up. Leave a little gap and leave the same amount of space for the R, O, and M. M can use up more space. M-O-R-O, space in the middle. This is a C, space in the middle, another C, space in the middle, and O. So I get a ballpark idea of how my letters are going to work. So you can either draw a line and draw the center point of where the letters are going to sit. So I will have an O, R, O, M. They sit perpendicular right on the line, or I can mark the center, make space for the O, leave space for the gap in between, then the R. And leaving spaces means that I could probably leave larger space for an M. It does not have to fit in a smaller space. And if there was an I somewhere, I leave less space. So you can choose which style you want to use. Now, because this is a fairly exotic place, we can change the letters and make them like this. So instead of writing a regular M, write an M which is slightly rounded. An R which has a nice tail coming down. And everything else can be simple. So here again is a design choice. Not everything needs to be exotic. So if you've got two C's and three O's in this, please don't bother making all these twirlies and all in every letter, forcing an O to do something like that. That is far too much. You have done something to the M and the R, and that is good enough. I'm gonna have to use a scale because if we make this lettering tera, I will be really unhappy. Okay, one more time. Okay, so now I'll give you a new shape for these letters where we will make the letters thick in a few places and thinner in a few places. So the first thing to do is make the shape of the letter form. It's like this. And I want to put a little bit of thickness along the sides. So this is how my M is going to look. The thickness from both sides is going to be the same. And in the center, I'm going to make it thick and thin and thick again. So it's going to look like this. For O, it's very simple. All the O's will be made together. For that matter, we can also make the C. See, this way you can monitor how your letters are looking. All the ovals need to look more or less similar if you can. And then I'm going to repeat this thickness on the inside of the O. I think here I can increase it a little bit on the outside so the shape matches. So I just bring a line mostly straight and then turn it inward from the edges like this. So it's a smooth line. And for the C, I can give it a slight thickness on top, but just at the end, not over here. So many of these things obviously I'm making because I study a lot of lettering styles. And I'm telling you, in the time that people do stuff like buying vegetables to eat food, I will be probably trying to recreate some font that I have seen. So it is super fun, but it does take away from other stuff. So the R again is a little thin over here, just where the ovals are turning. Don't come and contact the main vertical stem. Leave a little gap, that looks very elegant. And for the this little leg that we are throwing out for the R, see that it goes in such a way that it seems to be going around the O and not into that shape. Here too we can make a little thickness, then make it thin again and make it thick again. And wherever we have a thin line, instead of making it a shade, all these are called shades, you can just make the line slightly thicker so that the contrast between the thickest and the thinnest part of the letter is not too much. So while lettering is something that all graphic designers are exposed to, so are everybody else, because wherever you go, you see letters in some form or another, right? So my recommendation is, if you find a letter form that looks good, copy that down in some notebook. Many lettering artists or typographers have tons of sketchbooks in which they are just sketching different shapes. What we are looking at is some sort of balance, something that shows that a set of letters are a family. Now, if you have a thicker pen, like a 0.8, like this, you can make a line around our food, just the outside part. So in that, I'm going to change the shape of my plate a little bit, make it slightly rounder if I can. At any rate, I'm going to put a thick line around it. This is what will make it look more like a graphic.
Aditi,
Yeah.
what did you say about changing the shape? What was that?
So my oval shape, I want to make it a little more circular. So I have taken the thick line from the inside of the original line where it has become too wide, and
Got it.
taken it outside of the parts which have become too narrow. So I can manipulate this shape a little bit and make it look a little less oval and a little more circular.
Got it.
So this line, the thick line, is like when you have stickers or something, you have a line that goes around the main graphic. That is how you make your illustration look like a graphic image. So, a graphic image is something that is created either through illustration or now through computer generation, which can be used for um, something like an infographic. It's not a photograph, it is not a painting. It has a very specific purpose, and it is necessarily a simplified version of something that you can recognize easily. So you can, I'm sure you'll see graphics of uh, in black and white of food at places like airports or something, where you can immediately tell that what they're trying to say with that is there is a food court or something available. And this style is great for a lot of other things other than just things like manuals or signposts, because it is very quick and it relies on the fact that our eyes and brains recognize objects just from the context. And unless you are completely unfamiliar with that object, just a mere um, alluding to what you're trying to say with just lines also does work. Like if I were to draw a round shape and I put two other small circles in that, I could easily convince you that it's a plate with a couple of peas in it just by the context. So, this is again something that many illustrators know and do very well, but for some reason, um, people who are learning art tend to dismiss these illustrations as just merely functional illustrations and not art in a sense. You know what I mean? But it gives you so much opportunity. And we did this so fast within like 10 minutes. So it's already 9 if anyone wants to leave, 9 at my end. But if you can just give me 10 minutes, I want to just finish lettering these items because I want to show you something about how to letter. I've seen lovely illustrations get totally destroyed by bad writing. So, before you write anything, think about how it's going to look because lettering is also part of the composition. Now, while I have said that we can write this straight, write it in pencil and see where it will look straight. So, even if I write the word Tajin here, don't touch it to the object itself. Leave some space. Try writing it a little spaced out and definitely not in your handwriting. Then keep the space between the object and the lettering uniform everywhere. So this is a harira. Keep the heights and the style of lettering uniform throughout. because they are all connecting. What is this called? Masamen. So this is called Masamen. Masammen. Now, even if this is written upright, keep the same distance from the food. This thing, what is it called? I'm trying to think. I think this is called a pastilla. Pastilla? Just give me a second to make sure. I'll give you the wrong thing otherwise. Pastilla. Yeah, so it's Pastilla. So here we will keep the same distance away from the food, but you should also not run into the M of the Morocco. Otherwise, find a different place to put it, but not so far away that it's completely lost. Okay, let's try putting it here. Pastilla. Text is really important for making everything look good. Now, the other thing to do also is when you're writing, make sure you put a top and a bottom line and write it slowly. So, when you're writing this on a curve, the letters must sit on the curve, on the perpendicular, as if a perpendicular line is running through the centers. Now, I'm not very sure about this one. Maybe I can write it on top over here. So I'm going to leave this for now. And the others, I'm going to center it and see that the letters come properly. I'm making my letters slightly longer than I usually do, simplifying them. So a G does not have to have all the lines, like things like this. When you write a G, if you're in the habit of writing a G like this, you can avoid all of this by writing a G simply like that. In these letters, which are meant to just be the tag for these foods, don't make them very decorative. So again, over here, if we write something like this, can you see this? It is so busy, and making such ornate capital letters to write the title, it takes away from your illustration altogether. It just looks like too much salt in something which is already very delicious. So keep the tags simple. Remember that each of them is one ingredient in the overall composition. And for those of you who cook, you should find this easy to draw from. When we are cooking, when we make a masala, there is a proportion with which you will apply the masala, right? So you won't put as many cloves as you would put coriander, for example. So these are like the cloves or the khada masala in the recipe, where you need just a little bit of this and a lot more of other stuff. Okay, now this masaman, I find it strange because I have this gap over here, and it might help if I put maybe another little piece over here like this. So though my dark line has passed through, I could make this and then finish off my lettering. But it's an afterthought, so I will give it some time. I'll sit with everything else, finish everything else, and then decide whether I want to add more elements here. Now for the letter Morocco, just go ahead and paint it in a black colored paint. If you have Sumi ink, just use Sumi ink. And I avoid painting any of these things with or coloring them in with my micron pen, because I just feel that the pen is going to then be discarded. So instead of wasting all that ink on large spaces, I just paint. So I'm not going to be using any color around the black letters. We are not going to do any washes. That's why I am painting with Sumi, which is not a waterproof ink. But if you feel that you might want to color some of this, then paint this in a waterproof ink. So black and white is also a very, very good composition. It helps to focus on your lettering. If you have any more text you want to write, that can get more prominence. And if we paint the carpets, which we are going to paint next week, then the carpets themselves will also become so much more richer because they're not competing with anything else, especially food, right next to them. Okay. These letters can become slightly thicker also because the M is quite thick, but I'm okay with this. Okay, so we'll complete both these pages over the next 2 weeks. I want to do this thoroughly rather than doing too many different topics. Although I can be very greedy like that. I don't know when to stop. But we'll do few things properly. Okay, so Zai, I will share the video that we did last week. That will help you to prepare the earlier two pages. And then next week, we can finish this page. We'll finish the carpets. And then the week after that, we will take on the first page. So I think you have 2 weeks to finish off the earlier page. And just a note, in May, we would have had 5 classes, but 2nd of May, I'm taking an off because that whole week, I'm just going to not do any class. So right from Monday, that's the 28th of, Tuesday, 29th of April. That's again the 5th week of April. For that class, through to Saturday, I will be off. Okay. So you can also plan something if you want. All right. So any questions? Okay, then. I'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.